Stacey, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming out here. I'm excited to have a little conversation, see where this takes us, and hopefully this reaches some people and sets them down a path that will help them.
Absolutely, bro. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few years. It's crazy that we talked about this when I first walked in. I haven't seen you in a while, and it's crazy to think that, we've been able to stay in touch, thankfully through social media and whatnot, but it's been a while. But I'm so glad to be here with you, and thank you for letting me come over and record this episode with you here in Orlando.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I mean, we haven't seen each other in about 2 years or so. A lot has transpired, but a lot of good things have happened and a lot of growth. So I'm excited to see you again, excited to, again, have this conversation, see where it takes us.
Dude, you're the man. You've been able to accomplish so much success in a variety of categories throughout your life, from gymnastics to WWE and that whole, chapter of your life, which I know is crazy. And now obviously with the fitness and the content and all the cool things you're doing. One topic that I think you're very qualified to speak on, and I think it'll be so helpful for our audience, is how we can clear our mind. Because you've done a variety of things where you have to be very mentally focused and intentional. But with, the things of this world and of life and how busy things get, I think that's a topic I would love to dive into with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I think is most important to understand is that baseline calmness, peace is where I feel we should come from. And it's important to be able to cultivate that in ways that you can call upon it when you need to. Because you're never certain when you're going to need to call upon that calm. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I mean, even this morning I woke up and my mind was racing. And I was like, okay, what do I go do? I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. I was like, let me shut off my mind and go take a walk and get into the day. Feel the sun on my skin, get moving, and then clarity kind of comes from that. But having that baseline peace is super critical, I think, for being able to execute consistently in your life.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I love how you use a prime example of something that you experienced today. And obviously you've been building on the consistency and all the things that you've grown in, but you're very transparent about how it's something you still deal with, regularly, which is super interesting. You put out a post that I commented on a few days ago. I thought was awesome, but it's just you sitting by the dock, kind of enjoying the view, the water, the elements. But you say in the caption, "Just be." I want you to go a little bit in depth about why you posted that and what does that mean in relation to kind of just having a clear mindset and, understanding how that works into all the things that you do.
Right. Well, first and foremost, I posted that because I don't think that we see calmness, peace, and being enough on social, on mass media, on anything, at least within America. Like, everything is always hustle, grind, go get it, wake up, start running. Like, where's the peace? Where's the peace? Where does peace fit into this equation? And why do we feel that it is so bad? Why is it such a bad thing to take a moment for yourself to literally do nothing? That was how I captioned that post. Sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing. And it's true. And again, let's go off on why I made that day. I had a very strenuous day of workouts, not the greatest sleep leading up to this particular day. A lot of things have been shifting and just out of routine. And I knew that. I had the awareness of that, first and foremost. You have to have the awareness of, like, why you're feeling a certain way. So I wasn't like, oh, woe is me, this sucks. Like, I just need to rest because I don't know why. No, I knew very tangibly, like, why I needed to rest. And I was like, you know what? This is the day that I can take a step back, really sit and enjoy this presence of mind and this peace and being. And to follow up on why that's so important is because we're doing things all the time. And to run the risk of sounding like some, self-development, woo-woo bullshit kind of guy, like, we're not human doings, we're human beings.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's very good.
So if we don't take time to just be, we end up running ourselves ragged and we're doing a billion things, but are they even productive? Like, do we even take the time to think, is what I'm doing actually serving my goals, serving myself, serving my community and others, or am I just doing something for the sake of doing something and being busy?
Wow.
And I think taking that time to step back and just be at times will give you perspective to zoom out and be like, oh, well, I could have been doing X, Y, Z all day, but honestly, what would that have really gotten me? Where would that have really set me down? Like, would that have made progress on my path? You know?
That's so good, bro. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Have you read the book The Mindful Athlete by George Mumford?
I haven't.
You would love that book. So it's interesting. You bring up the word awareness, and I think that's a key component to having a clear mind, because without having the actual physical awareness of what's going on, it's going to be very hard to have that peace or to have that tranquility. And it talks about it in the book. So George Mumford, quick background on him, he was the mindset mental coach for like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, some incredible athletes. And one of the big things he would teach these athletes is you need to be very aware of the present moment that you're in. You can't get too high, you can't get too low, because, you know, obviously you're a former high-level athlete. You can speak on this, I'm sure. But in these high-pressure situations, there's so many decisions and so many things you're thinking of. And if you're not able to find that balance of being aware and also being present, it's going to be very hard to make proper decisions.
100%. And I think awareness is something that is trained, right? You're not aware of something. You don't know what you don't know. And if you are lacking in an area of awareness, it is something that can be taught and something that can be expanded upon. And awareness precedes change. You can't change anything you're not aware of. So especially in those high pressure situations and those moments where you need to just shut the mind off, well, if you're unaware that that's a moment in which you need to take control and shut your mind off, you can't make that change. If you're unaware that it is a situation that is causing you stress, you're not going to be able to change it. You have to have that awareness, like he says,
Sure.
and be present in that moment to understand that, oh, this is the moment in which I can make that change.
Yeah, I agree. And you kind of touched on it, which was interesting, and I totally agree with this. But as your mind gets cluttered, as things begin to occupy your ability to make decisions, your motives and your goals and your aim, whatever you're aiming for, can get slightly tilted and slightly shifted when you're not intentionally seeking, you know, why did you start? What was the main reason? Because, like, dude, even with our phones, like, we wake up and we check our phones, we get blasted, our mind starts getting occupied by all these things, and now we're slowly shifted and it's foggy and it's like hard to see the direction we're trying to go. And so without intentionality, like, hopefully someone listening to this can just be encouraged to, like, take a step back and understand why are you doing what you're doing. And like you said, when we don't have that focus, we're going to probably miss the mark of where we're headed.
Right. Another thing, too, since you just brought it up, is if the first thing you're doing in the morning is grabbing your fucking phone, stop. Stop doing it. If you have to turn your alarm off, cool, that's fine. But if you are grabbing your phone and starting to scroll immediately upon waking consciousness, you're walking into a minefield, a mental minefield. You could wake up to a text that you didn't want to see. You could wake up to a push notification. You could start scrolling. You see a news article or something that is like negative, even if it's like something that's minor.
Sure.
This shifts your focus, your perspective immediately upon waking up. You're very impressionable upon your waking state. And so it's extremely important to be intentional with that time and use that time to mold your day. Right? That is the morning is the ultimate time for you to set your attitude intentionally. And we all know that your attitude determines your latitude. Your attitude is your perspective on the world. And so if you wake up, you start scrolling, you're seeing a funny cat video. The next thing you're seeing, somebody died. The next thing you're seeing, somebody's in a fight. The next thing you're seeing is somebody with a thirst trap on IG. The next thing you see is some news article. You don't know what you're going to get. You're literally playing Russian roulette first thing out of bed. And you haven't even left the bed yet. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So I'm really serious about that for people because I've noticed a huge difference in my life. It's not like I never used to do that.
Yeah.
But like now, when I say I don't do that, I mean like 99% of the time I don't do that. And when it is that 1% of the time that I do that, it's me having lacked the intentionality and discipline to not like see the notification pop up just that's already on my phone. I'm still not seeking it, but like if there's a notification on my phone and I look at it, even to me that's like, oh dang, because now I know I got a text message I got to respond to, or now I know that there's some notification. I got most of the notifications turned off on my phone, if I'm gonna be entirely honest, because like ain't nothing that important that you need to like get a push notification from some app. Let's be real. But I digress from that point. Like, it's just very important to take control of that, especially in the morning, to mold where you're thinking and what you are getting yourself into that day.
For sure.
Set your vibe.
What, for people listening that maybe are consumed or trapped in that routine, what would you encourage them to do? And maybe if you're comfortable, share a little bit more about like what your personal morning routine looks like and how you can set yourself up with intention to kind of go about your day.
100%. Two parts to that. You're asking what would I recommend to somebody to kind of break the habit of getting on their phone immediately, and what does my morning routine look like?
Sure.
First part, one thing I would recommend to break the habit of getting off of your phone from the immediacy of you getting out of bed is set your phone somewhere else. My phone is either in my bathroom overnight or it's on my dresser, which is away from, I have to get up to turn off my alarm. So that would mean also that I would have to get up and intentionally know that when I'm grabbing my phone that I would then need to open it and start scrolling, whatever. And that little pause there gives you enough space, has given me enough space to break that habit, because then you're actively choosing to scroll. So it's going to take discipline regardless, you know? It's like anything else. Everyone asks for one hack, simple trick. Everything, even the hacks, require discipline, and that's just discipline of mind to say, hey, I'm intentionally setting this away from me so I don't scroll. So you still have the option to scroll, right? Like I could still pick up my phone, grab it, return to bed, start scrolling. But now you're doing that intentionally, and it's one of those things where you'll feel the benefit after. You know, it's not like an immediate, like, I get dopamine because I didn't necessarily get on my phone. Maybe it will. You never know.
Sure.
But that is super crucial. The second part, my morning routine, it varies in seasons, right? There have been times in which I've had like a very lengthy morning routine and I was like doing all this stuff. And then I realized like I ended up getting to this point where I was just doing the routine for the sake of doing the routine. It wasn't setting me up to be effective. And so now what I do for my morning, which I do feel has been pretty effective, is getting up, brush my teeth, whatever, get a glass of water, maybe put a little hydration stick in it or something that, you know, brings me some hydration, brings that life back to me, give me some sodium, because you're dehydrating when you're sleeping, you're just breathing out, you know what I'm saying? So like anyway,
100%.
Getting some hydration in the morning, and then I personally have been waking up and getting in the Word. I open my Bible, maybe I'll read 1 chapter, 2 chapters, doesn't matter. Maybe I'm reading 5 chapters, who knows? Maybe I'm reading a whole book, it doesn't really matter, but I'm getting in there to get fed spiritually. It gives me something mentally, it gives me a mental win because I'm sitting, quiet mind, reading. It gives me a spiritual win because I'm connecting with God, and so like I'm setting my day off well, and then I will either typically from there take a pause and have some meditative time, just in silence, either to reflect on scriptures I read or just like breathe and get into my day, or go do some physical activity, typically like a walk or something, quiet the mind down, just get into the flow of the day. But again, major key for someone trying to break that habit of them waking up and getting on their phone, set it somewhere that you have to get out of bed to get it, turn the alarm off, and then just remain vigilant and have the discipline to not start engaging with social media or news outlets or even text messages immediately out of bed. Chances are there's not many emergencies popping up, right? So it's not like every morning you don't have an emergency text. And now if you do have an emergency text, of course, respond if you can.
Sure.
How will I know if it's an emergency text? Well, usually if someone texts you, it's probably not an emergency. They're probably going to call you.
Yeah.
So let's just say that. But yeah, break the habit of that immediately. That will be the number one thing that would change your life if that's a habit that you're into.
Dang, that's so good, man. I appreciate you sharing your personal routine and some of the practices that you personally do. I've never been, obviously you hear all these clickbait titles and, you know, most successful people's morning routines, and they're these like 20-step, it's just insane. It's overwhelming for most people, and there's a high barrier to entry to start those practices, where I like how you've kind of boiled it down to just a few basic things, but they're intentionally done and they have real value, and you can see the tangible, effects of, what they're doing in your life and how it sets you up for your day.
100%. And one thing that I will add there too is everybody has a different experience in their own life, right? So what works for me might not work for somebody else. How I feel in the morning is not necessarily how you feel in the morning. What you need in the morning might not be what I need in the morning. And that's okay, but you do have to seek those answers in order to find what does work for you in order to make something that works for you. But one thing that came across one of my feeds recently was you need 3 wins every day. You need a physical win, you need a mental win, you need a spiritual win. So
wow.
If you rack those wins up earlier in the day, again, it just builds that confidence for you. But again, I'm getting a spiritual, mental, and physical win in the morning just by starting the day with some intentionality behind it. Yeah,
that's good. I love how you bring up those 3 components. I think no matter who you are, obviously this is not me pushing anything. I personally believe that faith is a huge part of my life. It's carried me out of a lot of situations.
Yeah, I think we should push the faith thing.
I think, 100%. But that's a big part of my life. Obviously, God has put a desire to do a lot of physical challenges and to move my body in that world. And then I think the mind is something that's really slept on, and I'm glad we're having this intentional conversation about it. But you've kind of referenced how you attack the spiritual side of it by getting in the Word in the morning and kind of setting your intention that way. What are the impacts of physical training to your mindset and to, just mindfulness?
Oh man, I think physical training is so important for your mentality and your mental health because you are challenging your mind by challenging your physical components, right? By challenging the physical, you are inherently challenging the mental because you cannot get through a physical challenge without challenging your mind. Whether it is, I had to turn my mind off to get this done, I really had to dig deep within my mind to say, you know what, I'm going to finish this. Sometimes there's workouts where I'm looking at it and I'm I got 4 exercises left, and I'm I want to leave. I don't want to be here. I want to leave. And then my mind is well, are you a bitch? Are you? Are you? Just straight up, are you going to not finish what you said you were going to do? Are you going to cower to these 4 exercises? Because here's the thing too, right? Just because I have 4, and again, this is all about the mental challenge and the battle that I'm having within my own mind. It's just because I have to do these 4 exercises doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do these 4 exercises with the most amount of weight that I've ever tried to do these exercises with. That's right. Sometimes it's just about getting through it to make sure that you stuck to what you said you were going to do.
That's good.
And a lot of times people look at fitness influencers or people who are who have a highly developed physique, and I think that they only crush themselves day in, day out, which is not the case. There are times where I go in and my weight's already listed as far as what I've done in the past, on my app, in my coaching program. When you log your weights, it comes back up for the next weight. The next time you do that exercise, you can see what you did. And there'll be times where I'm I can do that today, but I'm going to feel this for a couple days or weeks. Yes, there are times in which I will go up, of course. Progressive overload, I'm going to do that so I can challenge my body. But there are other times when I'm literally, if I do this, I'm going to be so stressed out because I'm not just challenging my physical, I'm challenging the mental. And this is a tax on my my nervous system. People got to think about that in your weights too, right?
Sure.
So just getting through it sometimes is enough to make a win. And so I think that's extremely important to know. But the mental side of things is you're exercising that challenge for yourself. You're showing up for yourself when you said you would. You're doing something. You're living in congruence with who you said you are versus who you actually are, and that just builds your self-confidence. And there's so many studied benefits to physical exercise to mental health that it's if you're not working out and you're feeling depressed or anxious, you have a clear-cut path to help yourself alleviate some of that symptoms.
Dude, that's so good. And I think, people that maybe follow you on Instagram, my hope is, and I know there are a large portion of people that are incredibly inspired by the content you post, but on the flip side, I'm sure there are some people that maybe are a little overwhelmed or see you do a triple backflip into a push-up. I don't know. You do some crazy stuff. And they might be I don't know where to start. And I think the cool part about it is, obviously you're someone, and we love fitness and we like to push ourselves, but no matter who you are, you should have some level of movement. Mm-hmm. Because even like what you said this morning, like you didn't say you woke up and you went and did the craziest workout. You went up and you woke up and went for a walk.
Right.
You just got some blood flow, you got some movement, you got some steps in, you got some vitamin D from the sun. Like those are things that I think people can quickly adapt and take to, their routines and not have to, it's not a heavy lift, but obviously there's more you can do with that realm. But I think the bare minimum is some movement because that really does affect the mind.
100%. Again, movement gives you, it puts your body into motion, and it gets you out of these stagnant emotions. It gets you out of these stagnant thoughts. And when you're moving, you start to think differently. You start to feel differently. So it gives you an elevated perspective versus like just sitting there all day, just like, well, I'm not doing nothing, because that's how it felt. That's how it feels sometimes. I don't want to do nothing. Well, let me go do something. First of all, it's a blessing that I get to do anything. Secondarily, like, if I go do something, maybe that will lead to something else, and it typically will. And I think that that's extremely important for people who are thinking, like, how do I even get started?
Yeah.
You got to just get started. And that's not to simplify it or, alleviate the inner struggle that you might feel about resistance to getting started, but, like, you have to get started. If you don't put one foot forward, if you don't take a single action towards actually getting started, you're always just going to be thinking, well, how can I get started? But the answer is, like, within the question. How can I get started? I get started.
Yeah. We were talking about this even before the podcast, just, about how there's so many things I think people really want, and they'd say they want them, but, like, do you really want them if you're not trying to figure it out? Do you really want them if you're not taking one step in the right direction? And again, to your point, like, being sensitive to, like, some people really do need help, but, like, there's got to be some level of you trying to figure it out, of, like, you taking that step. You owe it to yourself, too. It's not, things aren't just handed to you.
Right.
And then you couple that with working with someone like you who's obviously well-versed and very knowledgeable in the space and can help you grow and learn more, but there's got to be some initial push internally for you to get the ball rolling.
Right. Let me ask you a question. When you've been coached by somebody and whether it's in your sports or any facet of your life, when you've been coached by someone, when they gave you instruction, did they put your mind and your body through whatever action it was that they told you to take to benefit you?
They did not.
They did not.
No.
They give you the instruction. They'll give you some help. They'll give you an underdog, but then you got to swing yourself.
You got to apply it.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times people will look at, something that they want to achieve in their life, and they're waiting for somebody to give them that underdog. So they're waiting for someone to give them that push. But to be honest, it's no one's responsibility to ensure your success. It's great when you have someone that sponsors you, mentors you, and coaches you through that, and you can find that on your own. But again, that is another thing that you have to seek. Seek and you shall find.
Yeah.
And if you're not even seeking that basic first step, your goals, they're not even goals because they're not even, your dreams are dead in the water because you're not even applying yourself. And again, being sensitive only to the point of saying, hey, I know that it's challenging to get started, but beyond that, you got to get started. And there's no sensitivity beyond that because it's like, dude, either you wanted to do it or you didn't. And that's the end of that.
That's true. It's a good way to look at it. And you look at, like, all different types of forms of leadership, but if you really are someone who's looking to grow and expand and build your mindset and all these things, and you are seeking help from someone else, you should be doing that with the mindset of, like, okay, I want to learn from this person, but I got to learn how to apply it myself because, one, likely they're not going to be with you all the time. Two, real leaders set people up to become leaders, and then you're going to have the skill set to be able to go affect and impact and help other people. But if you're just constantly living through someone else or living off, them spoon feeding you a lot of the way there, it's not going to be sustainable, and you're not going to see that full element of growth that you could have if you take it within yourself and really apply it.
Correct. And ultimately, your growth is your job. It is your responsibility, and you have to tune out what other people are saying to a certain degree. If you're only ever seeking advice from outside sources and you're never seeking internal counsel, you may be headed down a wrong path, thinking that you're doing the right thing, and you don't even know, because you're just doing what everyone else has told you to do, but you've never really consulted yourself to know, am I applying myself and my gifts, my God-given gifts and talents? Am I applying those strengths, or am I just doing something because someone else has told me that I should and should want that?
I want to talk to you about success, because I think this goes hand in hand with the way your mind perceives everything that's going on. And we live in a world where there's so many things that are trying to occupy our attention. But how do you define success, and how does success play into this whole conversation and this broader topic of having a strong mindset?
Yeah. Success is one of those things where it's kind of challenging to define, because I think everyone has their own definition of success. We hear that all the time. Everyone's got their own definition of success. But I think one that sort of encapsulates success is success as, I forget which book I picked this up from, but it really struck a chord with me, and hit me, pretty deeply. And it was, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And I think that the essence of that, why that's so important, is because it talks about success as the journey. It doesn't say success is like once you reach this particular point, then like you have gained your success. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So you first have to have some semblance of an idea of what is that worthy ideal for yourself. And then having success as the journey, the progressive realization of that. So it frees you up to be a little bit more outcome independent, because if you already had it, well then you're not progressively realizing it, it's already realized.
Sure.
So it gives you that space to enjoy and put effort towards the journey that you're currently walking. And I think that that's something that's extremely vital for people to understand, is that success is within the process. Success is not the end goal. Success is the journey, because we're not promised tomorrow. But
that's true.
So if you always cast your success as this end point, well, then you could live your entire life unsuccessful. And that's not the case. But if you are understanding that the progressive realization of that worthy ideal is the success that you're seeking, well, then you can live your entire life successfully. Because even on days where you're not feeling great, feeling 100%, if you're feeling 30% and you gave 30% that day, you gave your 100%.
That's a good way to look at it.
You're still successful that day. So having that understanding frees your mind from feeling like trapped in this is all or nothing, and the journey is where you find that success. And that ties into mental health and your wellness. Just by understanding that, it can free you up, giving yourself grace on the days where you're not feeling like $1 million, giving yourself grace on the days where you may have done less than you would have liked to, but you still did something towards it. And I think that that's extremely crucial.
That's huge, dude. And I'm really glad that you explained it that way and brought that up. And you talk just about the importance of the process that, many people, refer to. But what happens, I think, a lot of times too, and this is what they talk about in the book, The Mindful Athlete, is you're going to experience highs, you're going to experience lows. That is inevitable. That happens to all of us in every walk of life, no matter who you are, no matter what your thing is. How can you find the balance in that and still, like you said, be determine that success while you're, pursuing the thing you're going after, but be able to find the balance within those two spectrums of highs and lows, and still be mindful of that journey through the process.
Yeah. That you're talking about, that mindful awareness and that presence, it's super crucial. And to what degree is your determination or your vision of success, how has that been determined? What influenced that for you? Do you know? Have you ever examined, do I really need that to feel successful? Do I really need to do this? And you hear me? Do, be.
Yeah.
Be it. If you want to be successful, then be the success that you're looking for, right? Who are you detached from outcomes, possessions, and accolades? What does that person look like, dress like, walk like, talk like? Who are they to others? Who are they? Who is their being? And when you get in that mode and you can fix your state of mind on that state of being, you will start to magnetize different situations, different opportunities, different circumstances that will help you get to that successful realization.
Sure.
Rather than always thinking, well, once I get there, then I'll be this. Once I get there, then I'll be this. Or once I have this, then I'll do this. Or once I do this, then I'll have this. It starts from your state of being. Like, because if you're not already bringing that into your vortex by being that person, you're going to continue to hold things away from you. And also understanding that there may be things that you think you really want, but then you haven't really examined the cost of those things for what that means for your journey, what that means for your family, what that means for your friends, your current state of mind, your personal reference of your identity. Like, you first have to examine those things. What determined your definitions of success? Who is that person when they are in that successful stream? And who are you currently, and what do you have to change in order to become that, to be that?
Wow, man, that's so good. This has been truly an incredible episode of the AIM podcast. I'm so grateful that you came on. I guess my final question, wrapping this all together, is if you could give one piece of advice to someone that's sitting on the other end of this, listening to this conversation, and they're like, man, I love what you guys are talking about, and I really do want to change my mind. I want to work on being more mindful and work on clearing my mind. What's that one piece of advice that you could just leave this episode with, of someone, just to be able to get better and to grow and to figure out a way to move forward?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, and something I think about often that I practice meditation, but I don't do it as frequently as I know would be beneficial. But if someone is watching this and they really want to make a shift in their mind and their health, their life, their body, everything, seek ways to implement a meditation practice into your daily routine, into your life, and watch how that transforms your life. Because again, awareness precedes change. And without the ability to sit with your own mind, you're never going to understand how it operates within you. And not never, don't want to speak in definitives like that, but like when you sit with yourself in a meditative practice, whether it's a guided meditation or what have you, you'll start to understand better how your mind operates under stress, under peace, under calm, while you're working, while you're not working. Learn to practice meditation, and it will help you expand your awareness so you can then invoke greater changes, more intentional changes in your life, so you see the things start to come that you want, and you can change your identity to yourself and your state of being. And that is massive. That's hands down the best thing that anybody could do.
Wow.
If they're looking for change.
You're the man. Dude, this has been such a fun episode, man. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your heart and your willingness to serve and just put this content out there, man. So thank you again for coming on the show, and I'm excited.
Thanks, bro. It's been great.
Let's go, bro.
Yes, sir.